When you think about money, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Spreadsheets.
Mm.
Stock tickers, maybe?
Yeah, complex formulas, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're sort of conditioned to believe it's all about logic and numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But what if that's, well, fundamentally wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What if being good with money has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and
Mm-hmm.
everything to do with, well, something much more human, your behavior?
And that's precisely where we're heading in this deep dive. We're digging into Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. It's a book that's genuinely shifted how a lot of people think about wealth, greed, happiness, even success itself.
Yeah, it really has. So our mission for you, our listener,
Mm.
is to explore some surprising insights and practical lessons from this book, things that might fundamentally change how you see money, how you interact with it.
Think of it like this. Your bank statement tells you what happened,
Right.
but Housel digs into the why. Those invisible forces, fear, ego, impatience that really drive your financial actions, and maybe, just maybe, how to get off that financial hamster wheel.
That's the goal. By the end of this deep dive, we hope you'll see money in a completely new light.
It's less about the what, definitely more about understanding the why and the how behind our money decisions.
Okay, so let's dive right into that core idea then. Housel's main point is surprisingly simple. Financial success is mostly about behavior, not how high your IQ is, not complex formulas.
Mm-hmm. This isn't a book packed with stock tips or, secret investment strategies.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding those deep-seated feelings, the envy, the fear, pride, ego, expectations, all that stuff that shapes your financial life way more than any spreadsheet ever could.
And what makes it so unique, I think, is Housel's approach, how he teaches these kind of abstract ideas.
Exactly. He's a former financial columnist, right? So he doesn't just lecture with dry stats or charts.
No, he uses stories, and they're incredibly powerful. They make these points really stick.
They make these abstract concepts just so relatable. Take that classic example. He uses the janitor who died with, what was it, $8 million?
Yeah, incredible story.
Compared to the millionaire executive who went totally broke.
Right.
Those stories just instantly show you, look, behavior is the key, not income, not how things look on the outside.
Such a stark reminder, isn't it? And then there's Warren Buffett. Everyone talks about his genius, his investment skill.
The Oracle of Omaha.
But Housel points out that Buffett's real secret weapon isn't just raw intelligence or some complex trading system. It's much simpler.
It's time. And patience. Loads of patience.
He started investing when he was, what, 10 years old?
Yeah, just a kid. And most of his immense wealth, the vast majority, actually piled up after he turned 65.
Wow.
It's just the raw power of compounding in action, that slow, steady, almost magical growth that comes from just waiting, sticking with it. It totally goes against our human instinct for quick results.
So consistency, not just flashes of brilliance. That's Buffett's edge.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually leads perfectly into another really critical point Housel makes.
Oh.
The huge difference between making money and the much harder skill of keeping it.
Oh, they are absolutely two different skills, totally distinct. Housel puts it really well. He says, getting money requires taking risks.
Right.
Putting yourself out there.
Okay.
Keeping money requires humility and fear.
Humility and fear. That's an interesting pairing. It's like a dichotomy, isn't it?
It really is.
You need optimism to invest your money, to believe it'll grow.
Yeah, you have to take that leap.
But then, to protect it, you need a bit of paranoia. A healthy awareness that things can go wrong.
Exactly that. A healthy dose of paranoia. So many people who make a lot of money end up losing it, not because they stopped earning, but because they just assumed the good times would roll on forever.
They lacked that humility, that fear you mentioned.
Right. They didn't have that protective instinct for what they'd already gained, which really highlights this crucial rule he talks about. Never risk what you need for what you don't need.
That is such a powerful guideline. Just that one principle.
It really is.
Because if you gamble with the money you actually need to live, chasing something extra you just want, you're not just playing with fire. You're kind of missing the whole point of money in the first place.
Mm-hmm. You're misunderstanding its purpose.
And speaking of needs versus wants, let's talk about that really profound but kind of slippery concept of knowing when you have enough.
Ah, yes, enough. Such a simple word, but maybe the hardest financial skill to master, especially today in a world that's constantly screaming more, more, more.
Right. It feels like an endless chase.
And that chase for more can become this, insatiable hunger. But more money can't actually fix emotional stuff like feeling insecure or guarantee you'll be happy long term.
It's like Housel says, the heart of financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving.
Exactly. You hit one target, make a certain amount.
And immediately you're looking at the next one.
Yeah, the goalpost just shifts further away. And if more is always the only goal, you'll never actually feel financially peaceful or successful. You're just stuck on that treadmill.
Which forces you to ask, well, what is the point then? If it's not just accumulating more, what are people really looking for when they seek wealth?
That's a great question. And it's usually not the Lamborghini, right? Or the giant mansion. Those are often just symbols.
So what is it then?
When you dig down, what people truly want from money is often, well, more time, less stress, the freedom to choose how they spend their days. That's the real prize.
Control over their own time.
Exactly. Housel argues that that is the highest dividend money pays. Forget interest rates or stock gains for a second.
He has that great quote, controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays.
It's so powerful. It reframes everything. Wealth isn't just about buying more stuff. It's about buying back your time, your autonomy.
Having the power to say yes or no based on what you want to do, not what you have to do financially, that's real luxury.
That's the ultimate goal for many, I think. Gaining that control gives you flexibility, choice,
Yeah.
peace of mind, really.
But sometimes, even with the best behavior, the best plan, external factors just smack you sideways.
Life happens.
Which brings us to those twin forces Housel talks about.
Yeah.
Luck and risk.
Yeah, the inseparable siblings of finance. He makes it really clear. Success isn't only about your hard work, and failure isn't always entirely your fault.
Right. We like to think we're fully in control, but
But we're not. He uses that incredible story about Bill Gates to illustrate this.
oh yeah, the high school computer story.
Exactly. Gates is undeniably brilliant, obviously.
Sure.
But he also had this insane luck going to one of the only high schools in the entire world at that time that had a computer.
Just incredible timing and access.
And then he contrasts Gates with his friend, Ken Evans. Just as smart, just as ambitious.
But tragically died young in a mountaineering accident before he
Exactly.
could really make his mark.
Right. It's such a stark example of how luck, good and bad, and risk play these huge, often unseen roles in our outcomes.
Yeah.
You can have all the talent in the world, but one unlucky break or one lucky one can change everything.
It's a really humbling perspective, actually.
It is. It's a call to respect both forces, luck and risk. And maybe not to judge your own financial journey too harshly by comparing it to someone else's highlight reel.
Especially since those reels often leave out the lucky breaks or the near misses, right?
Yeah.
We only see the successes usually.
That's survivorship bias in action.
Yeah.
Don't compare your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's curated public image.
Good advice. Okay, so flipping that coin, let's talk about something we do have more control over. Saving. Housel has this interesting take on saving, even without a specific goal.
Yeah, this one feels a bit counterintuitive at first. We're always told to save for something, right? A house, retirement, a car.
Exactly. Save with a purpose.
But Housel argues that saving just for saving's sake, without a specific target purchase in mind, is incredibly valuable. Because the most important thing savings buys you isn't a thing, it's options.
Options, how so?
Well, life is unpredictable, right? Opportunities pop up unexpectedly, emergencies happen, big life changes come along. Savings give you the flexibility to navigate all that, to seize an opportunity or weather a storm or make a change without being forced into a bad decision because you're financially strapped.
Got to do a buffer, a safety net.
Exactly. He calls it a quiet safety net. It gives you power, flexibility, peace of mind. It's like freedom insurance.
Freedom insurance, I like that.
Yeah.
It means you're not trapped if your circumstances change suddenly.
Precisely. You have leverage over your future because you have those reserves. You can wait for a better job offer. You can handle an unexpected medical bill. You can decide to change careers. That's why saving, even without a specific goal, is so critical.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together,
Yeah.
all these stories, these insights, what's the final takeaway, if you had to boil it down?
It really comes back to that central theme. Behavior trumps knowledge. You honestly don't need to be a financial genius to build security.
It's not about knowing complex theories or predicting the market.
Not primarily, no. What you do need are qualities like discipline, patience, a dose of humility, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. Knowing your own tendencies.
Those are the crucial attributes.
There really are. There would allow you to manage the emotional side of money to avoid those common behavioral traps that trip so many people up, regardless of how smart they are.
Because ultimately, even the most brilliant financial plan,
Hmm.
the most detailed spreadsheet,
Hmm.
it's basically useless if your own behavior constantly sabotages it, right?
Absolutely useless. That's the bottom line. You can have the perfect map, but if you can't control the driver yourself, you're still going to end up in a ditch.
So financial security isn't about outsmarting the market. It's about mastering yourself.
It's about being disciplined enough to stick to your plan long term, humble enough to admit when you don't know something or when you're wrong, and self-aware enough to manage those impulses like fear and greed. It's really a masterclass in self-management applied to money.
So the psychology of money. It's not just another finance book then. It's really about rethinking pretty much everything. How
Yeah.
you earn, spend, save, invest, and I guess ultimately how you live your life.
Yeah, it's a fundamental shift. It hammers home that money isn't really about the numbers deep down. It's about your choices, your values, your priorities. It's about writing your own financial